Okay, so in the last video, when I started talking about what got me interested in meditation, what got and yeah, I had gotten in that motorcycle accident, and I was just sitting in a bed up in my upstairs, parents' house, and I started watching Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson talk about how do you describe a fact? And um, that just kind of did it for me for like getting into meditation and mindfulness. Um, how how do you describe a fact? And I guess it's kind of like a modern discourse on it because I think Plato and Aristotle pretty much were having a similar conversation. So, how do you describe a fact? Well, it's got to be measured by something, and that that it's got to be measured by something that would reflect when it's reflected upon that. Um, it would logically be a fact, a rational fact. How do you describe a rational fact? So, if you think about that question, well, it's something along the lines of how do you describe truth, then is going to be very important, obviously. Because if you don't describe truth very well, then what's a fact? Um, because a fact is supposed to be uh, and even to describe it is a little tough. I guess 100% accurate, or that I guess 100% accurate is maybe um kind of one form of physics, quantum physics, like just like finding that electron, like you can find it within a certain accuracy. And so a fact is supposed to be 100% accurate. When you look for it it always should retrieve that data of it's a fact. You can always find it. And so when it comes to and then maybe Einstein would say, well, it's predestined, supposed to happen. It is the only thing that was supposed to happen. It's reality itself. You are in relation to it. You go and you look for the fact, uh, but that the idea of a fact is just your interplay to reality, because you have like a deep search for things that work and patterns, and you're drawn to those things. And so when you go and you look for a fact, it's retrievable, not because the place where you go to find it is 100% accurate, as opposed to maybe 97% or some quantifiable way of measuring it. But when you go and look for a fact and retrieve a fact, it's because it was predestined. The it was it was it was supposed to be that way. it was that way for survival or something like that. It was reality itself. Um, I don't know. Organizing in a way in which that pattern exists because it was necessary for survival. And maybe that would be a fact. And so then it's like, well, so then they get into, and then people get into these debates all the time because these ideas lead to the infinite. These ideas lead to an infinite state, and a finite state. It's that debate. And so Sam Harris would be finite. He would represent the finite. And Jordan Peterson would represent the infinite. Um, and so, and it's this idea of this interplay with reality. Um, um, so the Schrodinger's equation, for example, where you got to try to find the state of the you got to find the electron. So the interplay with reality there is when you move into that state. So if you're the observer and you move into that state of producing that experiment, the actor acting that out, and it changes. So when you look at an electron, it changes its I forget, but it changes its state. It changes its quality. Like the wave function collapses or something like that. So basically, I don't know, you try to look at it and it changes. So the idea is, even if you were to know where it was going to be, could you even know? Because when you look at it, it changes. Can it even be measured? So can you know? And can it be measured? Um and so if you are like looking for a fact, can it be measured? And so Sam Harris would say yes, it's the observable world. That's like Aristotle. You can find facts, and facts are 100% accuracy. So, kind of science, the scientific method. And you can build basically human psychology um, just based off from reality by this, I guess, inherent, innate desire to find a fact that's driving survival. And so that's not infinite. You don't need um, a state of something being in an infinite continuous state, an eternal state, like God. You don't need that. Jordan Peterson would say, no, um, we didn't build the human psychology off of trying to find a fact. We built the human psychology off of trying to survive. And that produced an ability to see patterns and write those patterns down. And so when we think about a fact, and then we ask, okay, well, if a fact needs to be 100% accurate to play our language game so we can know that it's true, so you call something a fact, build things. Um, so then what is truth? And Jordan Peterson would say these stories or these patterns to survival are included in my idea of truth. That would be Plato. He had the idea of the forms, and um, like the perfect forms. So like if a bunch of people draw circles, they would be imperfect circles, but you would know that they're circles because in your mind, your psychology, there is a perfect circle. And where does that perfect circle come from? Well, that from the infinite, from this idea of perfection.